Hello and welcome to Insights in Action with Orange 142, where we interview agency leaders and business owners to uncover the journeys, strategies, and insights that drive their success. At Orange 142, we're all about transforming brand stories into impactful digital experiences through innovative media and marketing solutions. And today I'm very lucky to be joined by David Weinstock of RF Binder. How's it going, David?
Really good. Thanks. Glad to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. And David, I would love to just start this off by learning a little bit more about you and your background and a little bit more about RF Bender.
Sure. A little bit of my background is I studied design in New York at Pratt Institute. My career has been a mixture of brand identity, design, advertising, PR. I had a period in my career where I was focused on directing commercials. So it's really run the gamut. I feel like I've taken a less traditional pathway through the marketing, communications, branding world. And currently I'm the chief creative officer at RF Binder, where I've been for the past almost 11 years, founded the creative group, which is called The Grove, which has earned just a ton of awards and really helped drive the expansion of what our creative offerings are for RF Binder.
Wow, that's awesome. And so, what do you guys do over at RF Bender? I know you deal with the creative side, but overall, could you tell us a little bit more about RF Bender?
Sure. Binder has been in existence, I think, for around 20 plus years. I think at its core competency, it was founded focused on earned media and public relations, but has really grown and developed into a full service integrated communications company. And I would say our primary focus is taking business strategies and aligning them to communication strategies to drive the greatest impact for our clients. And if you look at that fundamentally, that sort of expands on how we interact with our clients. That could be anywhere, anything from truly brand identity to earned media to crisis communications. We're working across paid, owned, earned, and shared content, and that's both for consumer and corporate work.
Yeah, wow. It's really interesting with crisis communications because you guys thrive in this, like when stuff hits the fan, you know what I mean? That's when you guys come in. Like how has that been working in PR and whatnot? Have you always, I know you've worked in advertising and whatnot. Has it been different coming into PR than what you were used to? Did you have to learn like a little bit of a new skill set or not as much?
Absolutely. When I started in the PR space about 15 years ago, it was very new to me. Now, what was interesting, and I think what I was seeing in PR at the time, and I think the folks who had hired me, my first foray into PR was with MSL Group. And that is this sort of massive convergence that was taking place. And if you look across branding agencies and production companies and PR firms and advertising agencies and design firms, there tended to be more and more crossover. And I think a lot of the more successful communications programs we were seeing being driven more in the earned media space, right? That was that sort of multiplier effect. And so by infusing more disciplined, a more disciplined creative offering, that they were able to not only expand on the types of work they were doing for their clients, but actually drive quite a bit of impact in this earned media space, in the sense that if you're coming from advertising and you're coming from branding and design, that's a very mature industry in terms of how they approach the development of creative material. Correspondingly, PR is very sophisticated in terms of their ability to drive influence, drive earned media, so that when you then bring together this sort of creative discipline, I think that you're starting to see a much more compelling way for brands to communicate and to amplify their message.
For sure. So you've built creative divisions within several organizations. What's the first thing that you look for when you're launching a new creative entity inside an established agency?
I think it varies quite a bit. Where I've seen the sort of fastest way to help organizations grow that side of their business is to be looking at one, who are their current clients, where are their opportunities for organic growth, and then looking at how creative, kind of the discipline of creative can enhance those relationships. And this kind of line of thinking I've been involved in for a long time. And one of my first jobs out of college was working for a design firm that was owned by the advertising agency Day. And it was Day Mojo at the time. And I really wasn't thinking so much about how design plays a role in advertising, but I was forced into this environment, which was advertising, and all of a sudden introduced to the amount of impact that design could play when working in the scale and context of an advertising environment. So that's really how I started my career. And then as time went on, I was starting to develop this thinking where this is really an interesting way to work, where you have designers working very specifically with copywriters and art directors, right? If you think of that traditional model in advertising. And from there, it just continued to grow. And one of my first larger jobs, I was the SVP design director for Campbell Methuen Minneapolis, which became McCann Minneapolis. And we were just seeing incredible growth from the moment I got there. I think it was around 1999. We tripled in size in the first 6 months. That is the design team, right? Or what they were calling the brand integration team, because of the opportunities and the great relationships they already had with their advertising clients, right? So they were basically saying, we're already doing your advertising. Hey, we'd love to have you talk with this brand integration group. How can we work on your corporate identity? How can we work on any type of collateral, annual reports, other types of communications that were more design centric? So I guess to answer the question more specifically, what am I looking for? I'm usually analyzing the clients you have. I'm looking at the current staff and how do we need to expand to enable some of the creative disciplines to become an offering. And then I'm also thinking about where are we going to see early wins in terms of profitability and growth, and then go from there.
And I love that you think about things from profitability and growth as well, because I think that there's this misconception that you either grow the creative side or you grow the profit side, you know what I mean? And so I think you have such a specific skill set. You went to school for design and whatnot, and I know that you're probably very proficient in that, but then it's like, it's really interesting hearing your story because it's like you learn one thing and then you defeated the next boss to get to the next level, to get to the next level, and now you're at this point where you're doing something very specific that I haven't really heard other people do, but it sounds like you love it.
Yeah, I think that interestingly, my daughter just got accepted to Savannah College of Art and Design, and she's going to be starting next year. And we've been talking a little bit about like, what does the pathway look like as a creative professional today? And the one thing that I've learned is that there is no really specific roadmap. There are going to be a wide range of opportunities. It's important to be passionate, follow your passions, but also have a certain level of professional pragmatism in terms of how do you apply these disciplines in a business environment. And I'll give you another example of taking a different sort of journey, and that was in, I think it was around 2006. I was at McCann Erickson. I was at MRM, McCann Relationship Marketing. I had gotten hired there as the director of design and played a role in the new identity development across all of their agencies for Intel.
Oh,
And that was a big opportunity. But so I spent a few years there, I think I was ready to take my creative hunger, if you will, and apply it very specifically to directing. And so I left McCann and started directing commercials, and I did that for 4 years. After 4 years of directing commercials, I felt like I wanted to get back into some type of agency environment because it's a very kind of singular journey as a director. But I didn't want to go back to another traditional agency. And I had the opportunity to work at a firm called MKTG, which is focused on experiential work. And they really gave me a wonderful opportunity to take my experience both as a director, as a designer, as a creative leader, and apply it to events and experiential work. And all of a sudden, all of that experience translated for me into this amazing world that was experiential. And just like developing directors' treatments, definitely working with producers and line producers and all the many people that are involved in the process of commercial making, felt very comfortable and similar to large event development. So again, I think what I would always say to certainly to creative people, is how do you take all of these different experiences and leverage them and be experimental and be open to the possibility that there are many different applications for creative thinking.
Yeah, yeah. That's really interesting. It's such a versatile career.
Thanks.
David, this has been awesome. Where can people learn more about you and where can people learn more about RF Bender?
I think one of the best ways to learn about RF Binder would be go to the website. We're always thrilled to take a call or share some case studies. I think our work speaks for itself, and also the website does a great job of articulating the types of work we do and the types of clients we work with. And certainly, if you want to learn more about myself, I would suggest you check out my LinkedIn profile. And again, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to chat.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much again for being on, David. This is great.
Fantastic. I really appreciate it. And thanks for your time, Shiv.